If you're worried about keeping your Bentley battery charged when you're not using the car, keep watching. These cars have got a whole lot of electronical goodness going on in every nook and cranny, and if you're not careful, they quite easily lose charge, particularly if you don't use them often enough. The fact is, they never go to sleep. If this happens, your car will start to find lots of faults because sensors are feeding back duff information to the modules, even though there's nothing actually wrong. Your air conditioning might stop working, your windows will play up. Now, if you've got a garage with a power outlet, you can buy a CTEK charger designed for the Bentley. But what if you haven't? Or what if you're going on holiday and parking at the airport for 2 weeks? Well, that's when you need to say hello to my little friend. So there's nothing particularly new about solar powers and solar chargers. Motorhomes and people in camping have been using them for years to top up their leisure batteries. And I've been using mine for 18 months now to make sure that my Nelly never actually went flat. They're only 4.4 or 4.8 watts, some of them. So it won't fully charge a flat battery, but it will maintain your battery just like a trickle charger does. To use one, you simply plug it in, mount it either on the dash or in the rear screen of the car, whichever's getting the most sunlight, and leave your car there for a week without worrying about whether it's going to start when you get back to it. And the great thing is that your cigar light ports in your car remain live even when your car's turned off. So you can safely leave them on the dash plugged in. As long as you remember to unplug them before you start your car, you'll never have any problems. Not unless you leave lights on, which take more than 4.8 watts it's replacing. At 42 quid or 43 quid, they're a really cost effective measure as well. And if, like me, you just don't have access to a charging point on a regular basis to keep your car in good condition, then it's a great solution. So assuming you've got a garage with a power point in it, and you can get a CTEK or similar battery charger, then you're going to need to know where your batteries are. And there's a few other items that you need to be aware of too. So the batteries are stored in the boot compartment. There's a main system battery on the left and a starter motor battery on the right. The reason they went for two batteries when they were designing this car is because they knew about the heavy load it was going to be under and the likelihood of something going wrong and one of the batteries flattening. So because the Bentley was such a complicated electronic marvel, they knew that they were going to have a backup battery, so they put two in. One covers all of the main systems on the car, all of the electric windows, seats, the motors, the modules, the ignition control, the fuel pumps, everything is on the left-hand side. In the right-hand side compartment, you've got a smaller starter battery, which just powers the starter motor. Now, if you find that you can't start your car because it's got a flat battery, there is a procedure to follow which might be helpful to you. And that involves putting the key in the ignition and then turning it to the left. When you do this, you don't actually move from one battery to another. You create what's called a parallel circuit of the two batteries. Same 12 volts, but all of the amps of both. And so in this case, if you've got a flat starter battery, the system battery will help the starter motor to turn over and your car will fire up and it will start charging hopefully. If it's your system battery that's low, then it's not going to be telling your modules and your fuel injection system and everything else that it needs to be firing up. And so the starter battery will actually help the main system battery for a short period of time. So depending on what sort of a charger you've gone for, if it's like the CTEK, which is a maintenance battery charger, which doesn't put an awful lot of amps through into the battery at once, then you're fairly safe. If you go for a traditional battery charger, albeit one made for AGM batteries, then you've got to take care. If you start pumping 10 amps of voltage into the battery, you could well end up frying the battery control module, which is a really expensive piece of kit to have to go and replace. So to avoid any real problems with this, the most sensible thing to do is to remove the negative terminal connection to the system's battery. That's it there. Just a 10mm nut, loosen it and remove the terminal, and you're safe to charge your battery without frying any other electronics. Testing batteries is a bit beyond the remit of this short video, but basically people get confused between volts and amps. Your battery could be at 12 volts, but not have enough amps or not be able to deliver enough amps or store them to do the function that it's intended to do. So they have to be what's called load tested to see how they perform under pressure. This is something that an auto electrician or even a supplier of batteries would happily test for you if you go and see them. There's also a common fallacy that starting your engine and letting it run for 10 minutes standing still is going to do your battery any favours at all. It really isn't. The energy required to start the engine is not going to be replaced by standing still ticking over for 10 minutes. It's more like 20 minutes driving at 60 miles an hour to do that. So actually you're depleting the battery. You need to take them for a run. And hey, that's half the fun of having these cars. Pointless driving. No such thing. It's also worth noting that there's a special procedure for jump starting these cars involving both batteries being connected. Your service book will tell you all about this. So that's it for this week's video. I hope you found it useful and perhaps entertaining, and if you did, please subscribe and like, and if you can share it with your friends, I'd be really grateful. I'll see you next time. Until then, happy motoring.